weeks left to go in the regular season. Week 12 is here already. This is College Football Tailgate, our Week 12 preview show. I'm Dan Watkins. John McKechnie here with me as always. John, we're getting to that, that final stretch time. Teams are rounding the turn. Some of these teams that have playoff hopes still alive, you only have a few more chances to impress the committee and put another little chapter on your resume here, but it's an exciting time. Can't wait to break all this down. How you doing, man? Big game coming up in Athens.
Yeah, I know it's a big game when I start, getting my sleep affected by it. It started last night, just kind of wake up and, it's
the cold sweat.
Yeah, cold sweat. I'm like, I can't go back to sleep. I'm thinking about it, and Twitter, the new algorithm has just made it so unbearable. If it picks up on the fact that you're reading something, it's just gonna shovel it in your face. So I've just gotten an onslaught of Texas tweets this week. A lot of the screenshot of Gunnar Stockton laying just completely discombobulated on the ground against Texas from the SEC championship game last year. I think Georgia won that game. So they're talking a lot of yang for a team that lost to Georgia twice last year and really has only started to look good just recently, just this month. Really, you could argue just against Vanderbilt. But yeah, the Horns are really the Bulls are on parade, it seems like.
Yeah, they are coming. What a home schedule for Georgia season ticket holders, by the way. You get all the big games at home on campus this year. That's awesome. I mean, I know you're not going to all of them, or I don't know. I don't even know how many exactly you've been to this year. But as a Georgia fan, you're getting everything right in your backyard this year, which is pretty sweet.
Yes, obviously shoe on the other foot last year, but by that same token, yeah, it's been huge for the season ticket holders this year. I'm not going to be able to be in the house this weekend, unfortunately. I think I might pop in for the Charlotte game next week.
There you go.
Maybe a little bit more in the old price range, but I will find a way by hook or by crook to watch this game, even if I have to watch it at the gym.
There you go. Like we were talking about on our Week 11 recap show, if things start off a little slow for Georgia, you might just, like you said, you're going to have your go bag ready. You got to get down there to Planet Fitness and just hop on a treadmill or whatever you're doing, an elliptical, stationary bike, and just watch the game there in a nice, safe spot.
That's exactly right. It will be, the lunk alarm will be going off, but, that's okay.
Just remember, it's your planet. It's your planet.
It's a judgment-free zone.
Exactly. So, thank you very much for those of you who are watching. If you're new or if you've been following with us here throughout the season, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Hit that little subscribe button down there in the corner here as you're watching. We are College Football Tailgate. You can find us at that handle on all three platforms, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as we continue to try to build this thing. It doesn't cost you anything. It just helps John and I as we try to build this. And you can follow us on social media as well. Twitter, at CFB Tailgate 25. TikTok, at CFB Tailgate, where all the fun is. As the comments and some fan bases that are just, little ornery, I guess, is one way to put it, when you say anything even slightly negative about their school. But that's why we love college football, right? Just to rile people up and just the passion that there is around the country.
I tried so hard to dance around the eggshells during the Heisman thing on Monday, talking about Mendoza versus Say, and I'm saying bending over to say how much I respect Ohio State, and yet what apparently the translator comes out through Buckeye ears is they suck. Julian Saint's doing nothing. And I'm just way over the moon about Fernando Mendoza for having a game-winning drive. I'm so dumb for that. So, the Buckeye Nation, if you had the over-under on when we would piss off the Buckeye fans, if you had mid-November, I feel like that's a win. I would have expected this to come, much, much sooner.
Yeah, I think some of the other teams kind of played a part in that, like the Penn State meltdown and all that kind of stuff that's gone on there this season. But, yep, we're here. Now the Buckeyes are fully on everybody's radar. Not that, that they aren't just on the side here as this juggernaut that everybody's been waiting. Now they are on everybody's TV screen every single week here as we finish out the season. So, like I said, this is our Week 12 preview show. We got some game breakdowns coming for you guys. We got best bets at the end of the show. We're already 2-0 this week, by the way, if you were following following on Monday's show. Maction, very kind to us this week. We'll have more bets for you at the end. But, John, I thought we haven't talked since the committee unveiled their latest rankings here. No change really at the top, at least in the top 5-6 teams. We said, we wouldn't hate it if they put A&M over Indiana. They didn't. They left Indiana at number 2. I don't have a problem with it either way. I thought that was just a good discussion to have, that these two teams, I feel like they're very equal, and it could very much be with what'd you do this past weekend for how we're going to rank these teams going forward. Not surprised, though, that Texas Tech jumps up to number 6.
Right. I think that there's a bit of recency that plays into these rankings, and that's why we thought that there was a chance that A&M could jump. But then also, I think Ole Miss, it's no disrespect from the committee. It's just literally Texas Tech beat a top 10 undefeated team. You played the Citadel. Therefore, you slide down just a little bit to make room for the Red Raiders there. But I thought that was warranted. I thought it was interesting. Largely the field of 12 remained the same, just in a different order with BYU dropping back to 12. Utah still chilling there at 13.
Lurking.
So clearly, a lot of respect for them. Miami scoots up to 15. I think they're the highest ranked team now among the ACC. And Vandy also kind of out there and waiting in the wings at 14 as well, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and then you got teams like Michigan, USC that are both just chilling there at 17 and 18. Both can still, I think, fully control their own destiny with how they play down the stretch. The ACC conundrum is something I think is just going to be every week. It's going to change. We're going to get a new chapter in it and more about these teams that we're going to know. But Miami, it's pretty much all but certain that they're not going to be going to Charlotte. A lot has to happen for Miami to get to that conference championship game. And Miami's really interesting with how some of the committee's logic here. So Miami beat Notre Dame. They have the same record, yet Notre Dame is number 9, firmly in the playoff, and Miami's just chilling there at 15. And then Miami lost to Louisville, and they have the same record. And Louisville's 5 spots behind them. They just dropped after they lost to Cal this past week. So some interesting logic that I think this is setting up that the committee's going to have. I mean, they're praying that this all figures itself out here down the stretch, and maybe Miami drops a game and Louisville drops a game here. But, it's already setting up for them to have to, explain away a lot when it comes to the ACC on that first Sunday in December.
Yeah, there's going to be some soft science there, and just sort of it seems like they're valuing the good wins more than in penalizing the bad losses. I think that's how you explain Louisville dropping that far behind Miami. I mean, I think you lose outright as 18-point favorite to Cal. Mm-hmm. I can understand that. I think if I had the truth serum, I do think that Miami's a better team than Louisville. Louisville obviously beat them, and I think that counts for something, of course. But I think realistically, if you're trying to get the best 12 teams in, I do think that Miami, the better team than Louisville, but neither of those in the top 12 right now. But yeah, basically we have a just mosh pit right now in the ACC standings where there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams with one ACC loss. You got Tech, Virginia, Pitt, SMU, and Duke. And then you get all this weirdness where some of these teams are not playing conference games. Like Duke last week, they lose to UConn. Doesn't really matter for ACC purposes. Pat Narduzzi famously this week saying that they can lose by 100 this week.
We'll get to that.
To the Irish.
We'll get to that coming up in a few minutes. But yeah, the ACC is just a total mess.
And not for nothing, but during our research this week, just we've kind of forgotten about UNC. That they've kind of the dumpster fire has largely been kind of extinguished. Mm-hmm. They have one of the best run defenses in the country. I had no real idea about that.
Somehow.
I think they're 4th against the run. Just an odd little details in digging into some ACC stuff this week. But yeah, we've got a lot of potential carnage here with the ACC here as we get into the final 3 weeks.
So, and I want to shout out, I heard Josh Pate bring this up on his show this week, that there is a nightmare scenario for the ACC that they missed the playoff altogether, which you would think, how is that possible? Well, if Duke somehow wins the ACC, which right now, if Duke wins out, they'll be 8-4, and they will be in Charlotte, and then let's say they knock off Georgia Tech, they're a 9-4 conference champ, there's a chance that the committee has 2 G5 schools ranked ahead of Duke. And the way this is laid out and how this works and the rules for the college football playoff is that it's the top 5 conference champions make the playoff. Not the top 5, not the top 4, Power 4, and then G5. It's the top 5 conference champions. So, like, if USF runs the table and they win the American, and then somehow James Madison was to win the Sun Belt, and they're sitting there like 12-1 or whatever, they could very well be ahead of Duke as well. And then the ACC just misses entirely, which would be insane. And it would be one of those days where you peek on Twitter for maybe a few minutes, and then it gets so toxic that you just got to like throw your phone to the other side of the room.
It's fun to think about. I don't think when it comes down to it that will happen, but Duke winning would certainly put. I mean,
the way this season's played out, the way 2025 has been, it's certainly more feasible than I think some past years.
Yes, I think if nothing else, that's definitely true.
All right. So there is like a little bit of news going on with like the actual committee itself. You dug this up. What is going on here with the actual playoff committee?
So Mac Rhodes, he had like some quotes on Tuesday during the rankings show that people were running with and so on and so forth. And then comes down Thursday that he's stepping away right now as being the AD, I think, at Baylor, in addition to being the chair of the committee. So,
oh boy,
I haven't done enough reading on it to speak on it necessarily, but interesting that we're into week 12. We've had 2 of these batches of rankings, and now all of a sudden you got a new head voice trying to decide this thing the rest of the way. I don't think it changes too much, and I think they have, that the kind of guidelines and bylaws that they want to abide by. But interesting nonetheless that the guy who has like the biggest chair in the room in the committee no longer going to be a part of this process moving forward. It doesn't look like.
Yeah, that is interesting, and I don't know. Do we if there's like a weird movement in the rankings next Tuesday night? Like, do we find out that maybe he was banging the drum for this certain team a little too much or something like that? So it is something I think to keep an eye on. If there's just some weird movement that can't be explained, maybe that's the reason why. Or maybe there's a new. Are they replacing them, or are they just going to go with an 11-person committee? They have to have alternates, right? That can sit in.
I'm sure they do. I haven't seen the full fallout of this. Apparently, that according to Outkick, that this may or may not have been brewing for over a week at this point. So, again, not totally sure what's going on with Mac Rhodes, but it seems ungood, and the committee's going to have to adjust.
So that is interesting to keep an eye on. Other things that interest me right now when it comes to the playoff chase and national championship picture and all that kind of stuff is the odds board right now, John. Like, any bets, futures that you're looking to place right now? One that jumped out at me is Texas is sitting there at 30-1 to win the national championship. And if this team does get into the playoff, they are certainly talented enough to get there. And you would have to think if they do get in, well, that means they've definitely figured things out. Arch is probably playing really well. And just talent-wise, Texas can stack it up with anybody here. Like a 30-1 ticket on the Longhorns right now, I don't hate that bet one bit.
Yeah, I mean, considering it was 5-1 to start the year. And, they're still very much in the hunt here, and they've got 2 chances in these next 3 weeks to really kind of stamp their playoff bona fides against Georgia and against A&M. I'm not drawing the direct parallel to Ohio State from last year, but it felt like Ohio State couldn't really figure things out until the playoff last year, and then they lay 4 consecutive A games out there, and it was very obvious as to how good they actually were. So if Texas is able to, again, I don't think that Texas's A game this year is as good as Ohio State's last year, but a parallel, something similar, I think would make some sense. And could you see Texas getting that dangerous? Sure. We'll have to see. Again, you got these 2 big tests here to really kind of show us one way or the other. Backs against the wall with 2 losses already. But, I think that there's worse moves you can make than getting in on Texas at 30-1. For me, Heisman wise, I think Ty Simpson at 4-1 and Marcel Reed at 8-1 are both interesting. I just have a hard time betting Heisman that is under 2-1 in the case of both Say and Mendoza. And then if you want to get a little froggy, I think we were just talking about the ACC. I think it is pretty wide open. So if you want to fade the Georgia Tech element of it, Pitt 8-1. I feel like I'm just like the Pitt guy now. It's a strange place to be. And then SMU's not totally dead either at 6-1. They have a path as well. They just have the one conference loss too. So I think the ACC. I think if you're betting conference championships, it would be where I'm steering my action.
Sure, I would agree with that. And then one other one here too. USF is still plus money to make the playoff. Right now, they are the committee's darling, the G5, the first G5 team to be ranked this season. If they can control their own destiny, they're going to get in. I mean, it might make more sense just to keep rolling over money lines on them at this point, but plus 125 for South Florida to get into the playoff at this point. You can still make plus money on that as well.
There you go.
All right, very good. Okay, let's dive into some game breakdowns. Fun Saturday slate we got coming up here. It gets going right at noon. And let's start off in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's where ESPN's College Game Day is going to be. We got number 9, Notre Dame at number 22. Pittsburgh, the spread here is at 12.5. The Irish, the big favorite on the road. We got a total sitting at 55.5. John, you hinted at Pat Narduzzi's comments earlier this week. I was going to ask you if you had heard them. Clearly you have. I think everybody has at this point. But in case you haven't, Pat Narduzzi was asked if this is a must-win game against the Irish this week, and instead he pretty much said, no, it's almost like a glorified exhibition. Quote, absolutely not. It's not an ACC game. I'm glad you brought that up. It's not an ACC game. I'd gladly get beat 103 or 110-10 in that game. They could put up 100 on us as long as we win the next two after that. So a couple of thoughts here right off the top. Number one, interesting scores and stats that he brings up there, because I think like 110 to 10 is the combined score of the last two times that these two schools have met on the football field. Notre Dame has wiped the floor with them. And two, why would you put that out there? Is he already like greasing the tracks for like the excuse train to come through if they are to get beaten pretty soundly this weekend? But also, like, why even put that thought in your player's head, John? Like, why put the thought out there that it's okay to get smacked around this weekend because you still have two more games coming up? I just think this is weird coach speak this week.
Yeah, it's like he's negging his own players or something. I don't understand it. But he's reading chapters of The Art of War that other people don't quote from Sun Tzu or something, like to find some motivation for this week. I mean, I don't know how that can inspire your players, talking about getting beat by 100 points in a game of football, but I don't know. Narduzzi is apt to say just about anything, it feels like, so it doesn't totally shock me that he said something that kind of makes you tilt your head this week. And again, like, he's not totally wrong in the sense that, their larger goal is getting the ACC championship and getting the playoff that way. But, you're talking about the ACC getting left out. An ACC champ Pitt that lost by 100 points, I feel like there's no way they're particularly highly ranked either.
Would be tough to justify that, that's for sure. But let's actually jump into this game here and break it down. So Pittsburgh has the number 3 run defense in the country here. They're also number 1 in the country, I believe, when it comes to yards per carry. So this run defense has been great. They can be thrown on here. But I'm going to say this. They have not seen a rushing attack this season anywhere close to what Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price and the Notre Dame offensive line can do here. I think they have played just one top 35 rushing attack this season, and that was Florida State. That game went to triple overtime, if you remember, I believe. Was that the triple? No, that was Virginia. I'm sorry. That did not go to triple. But still, they struggled with Florida State. They did get the win there on the road in Tallahassee. But just one top 35 rushing attack that they've played. Notre Dame is another level up from that. Pittsburgh's passing offense, Heinschel, your guy, has been incredible. Great story. They're the number 11 passing offense this season right now, averaging over 300 yards per game. This is going to be a good test for Notre Dame. And the so-called renovated, rejuvenated, reformed Chris Ash defense, because they have been playing much better as of late, but they really haven't seen a passing attack like this. They got USC a couple of weeks ago, but that was in that the weather was terrible in the second half of that game. This is going to be a really interesting matchup here, John, because, well, Pittsburgh also doesn't have that elite wide receiver like Mekhi Lemon for Leonard Moore to shadow the entire game. So what do you make of this matchup with these two teams? Can Heinschel actually keep Pittsburgh in this game? Because I'm looking at this, and I think that Notre Dame's just another level up from what Pitt's been playing lately.
Yeah, I think that's a fair summation. I think both in terms of like the Pitt run defense getting tested. They've played a schedule that is sorely lacking impressive rushing offenses. I think Heinschel, he's kind of this live wire of a guy, but I worry about the turnovers for him in this spot. I mean, like he got some crazy fumble luck in that game against Florida State that if the ball bounces another way, maybe Pitt loses that game outright, but he's also a baller and a playmaker, and they spread the ball around so much that guys like Kenny Johnson, Raphael Williams, and so on, there's a lot of ways in which they can get at you. Key thing I think to keep an eye on here as we get the injury reports and availability stuff is Desmond Reed, because he was really the X factor also for a lot of last year, and then for that Florida State game. If he's the running back, but he is extremely effective as a pass catcher. I think he had like 150 receiving yards against Florida State, so you got to keep a lid on him, provided that he's available. Sat out the last game against Stanford, but Pitt is coming off the bye, so if he's full go here, that's just one more weapon to keep an eye on here. And then, if Pitt is able to kind of keep a lid on Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love, how much do you trust CJ's Carr? And I think the answer is enough, more than enough here to get it done ultimately against Pitt. Like if they're going to pass funnel here and make CJ Carr beat him, I'm pretty sure he can.
Yeah, I really don't have many concerns about Notre Dame in this one. I think they're locked in. This is the last real opportunity for the Irish to put an impressive win on their resume for the committee here, because they end the season with Syracuse and Stanford. They can only hurt themselves at that point with those two games. So I think the Irish are going to be locked in. I think this is a major step up in competition for Pittsburgh compared to the crap of the ACC that they've been beating up on this season. And just all the weapons that Notre Dame has too. Pitt can be thrown on. Fields, Pauling, Faison, Greathouse, Reardon, the two running backs. I think they're just going to be able to overwhelm here. I like Notre Dame big in this game. I think they cover this game pretty much with ease. It's 12.5. I'm going to lay the 12.5 this week. They are on my card. I think they win this 34-17 or something like that, but give me the Irish on Saturday.
Yeah, I see turnovers bouncing the other way for Pitt this week, and Heinschel kind of ultimately looking like the freshman that he hasn't really looked like just yet. So I think that against this Notre Dame defense that has been better, I think that's the right move. The models have it as Notre Dame by 13 according to FEI. SP Plus has this one a little bit closer, Notre Dame by 7 and some change. I know that this number has come up over the course of the week. I think when we talked last on Monday, it was maybe 10.5. So definitely some aggressive movement in favor of Notre Dame. Probably best to, if you're buying that, best to get on it now before we get into that 13.5 range.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to see the Irish be one of the more popular public sides. Excuse me, this week. On this Saturday here in Week 12. But we're both in agreement and lockstep there. When it comes to my team, the Irish, now let's see how we feel when it comes to your team, because boy, oh boy, do we have a quarterback battle in Athens, Georgia this weekend. Texas at Georgia. The Dogs favored by 5.5, 6 points at home. We got a 48.5 for a total here, John. Arch Manning has been quietly heating up over the past month or so. Back-to-back 300-yard games, 6 touchdowns in his last 2 times out. Texas offense looked great, quick start against Vanderbilt the last time we saw them. They're coming off the bye. Texas, though, they are 11-3 in SEC play since they joined the conference last year. 2 of those losses are against Georgia, both games where they just could not run the football whatsoever. I don't think that's going to change this week. Not that I think Georgia's going to be able to run the ball much on this Texas defense either. And then on the other side, you got Gunnar Stockton, who is just having a really nice year. And as you look at Stockton's stats and his game log and his performances, it's got to make you comfortable as a Georgia fan that it's almost been like when they ask him to do more, he does better.
Gunnar Stockton's been amazing. I can't believe that we're here in November breaking down this game, and he's the part of this Georgia team that I feel the most confident in. The way that he's kind of locked in, really dating back to the Tennessee game, has been remarkably impressive. I think that you also have to, I think Georgia fans at large, myself included, need to eat crow on the Mike Bobo stuff. He's been amazing at sequencing this year and the play calling. Maybe a little bit over-reliant on the screen game. I think both these teams are actually, that's something to watch for in this game, is the short, quick passes. Because neither of them are going to be able to run the ball, kind of an extension of the run game. Tackling in space, I think, is going to be big on the perimeter. Let's see. Bouncing around here, we had like so many notes for this game.
I know. We're all over the place.
Circling back to Arch, I gotta disagree with you. There's nothing quiet about anything that Arch does.
Fair.
He breathes, and it's headlines in the Austin American-Statesman. But you know, credit where it's due. He has lit it up these last two games. But I will point out, he's against Vanderbilt and against Miss State. Those aren't the best defenses. I mean, Auburn scored like 1 million points on Vanderbilt's defense.
They did.
Last week. So how impressive is that really? I do think that, you know, that there's a screen pass to Emmett Mosley that went to the house against Vanderbilt. And again, this goes with my thought that it's really important to tackle in space in this game. It was like a floating duck. Like a defender makes a more instinctive play on that, and it's pick six going the other way. It was like just kind of there for the taking, but Mosley grabbed it and goes to the house. So I'm not sure that Arch is fixed necessarily, but he's not nearly as broken as he was earlier in the year. The trenches, I think, are a huge, huge part of this game. I think Texas leads the nation in sacks, tied for the lead in sacks in SEC play with 25 in 6 SEC games. Georgia has been really good. The offensive line has. They've just allowed 11 sacks in SEC play. Has been playing better of late, in my opinion. I think they've kind of have their final five combination up front there. So I think that they will be able to run it maybe a little bit more than you might have thought, given the Texas run defense. It has been really good. But I do think that Georgia, with what they have, unlocking Nate Frazier a little bit last week and Chauncey Bowens, maybe see if some of these other depth guys can get some action there as well. Long way of saying that again, if we have a setup where Georgia is protecting Gunnar Stockton and kind of preventing those big splash plays from the Texas defense that can doom a drive or generate a turnover, then you have to like the chances of Georgia being able to march down the field, score a lot of points. And then on the other side, if Georgia's pass rush can get anything going against Arch Manning,
big
then
if.
that could be, it's a huge if. And I think beating up on Miss State's offensive line last week, while it might give them some confidence, it doesn't really prove anything.
Good vibes.
Yeah,
good vibes.
That's pretty much all you're taking from it. So, I think that this kind of ends up being a little bit more of a high-scoring game. I'd be interested to see. Let's see what the over/under here is at 48.5. I definitely like the over in this one. I think the defenses are living a little bit more on reputation, especially the Georgia side. I think Texas has the better defense, but I think that Georgia's offense is one of the best in the country right now, and I think that Georgia's defense is gettable for this Texas offense. Texas can't run the ball, so it is going to be a lot on Arch Manning's shoulders. I do like Georgia to win this one and to cover. The models have it FEI Georgia by 14 points, and SP Plus has it a little bit closer with Georgia winning that one by 4, 27-23. But both of those models like the over as well.
So with both of these teams and their front sevens on defense being so good, these are two of the best run defense units in the country, both top 4 in the SEC. These two teams can be passed on, though. They can be thrown on. Georgia has the 58th ranked pass defense. Texas, 96th, by the way. I think this game comes down to trust, John. And which quarterback do you trust to make the big play if needed? Is it Arch Manning, who has had a very much a roller coaster season, or Gunnar Stockton, who's been very consistent, and when the money's on the table and it's time to put your chips in, he's been really good this year. I think I trust Gunnar Stockton more, and I'm not a fan of either one of these two teams. But how do you feel?
I definitely trust Gunnar Stockton more. Arch, we still need to see that moment from him, and whereas Stockton has done it multiple times already this year, whether it was against Auburn, whether it was against Tennessee, whether it was against Ole Miss. Like there have just been times where Georgia's absolutely needed it, and Stockton has gotten it for them. So ultimately, I give the quarterback edge to Stockton. If you really want to distill it down to just those two guys, I think that Georgia does have the edge. I think that this is an insane display of talent on both sides here. I'm really excited for this one. It's going to be crazy, no question, but I do think ultimately that there are a little bit more flaws in this Texas team, and their inability to run the ball. Yeah, it's kind of been a recurring theme this week. We talked about Bama, maybe a little bit about Ohio State, but I think Texas is running like 80 yards a game, something like that. Dead last in the SEC, 81.4 rushing yards per game. So that puts all the pressure on Arch Manning, and I think if you're playing into Georgia's hands defensively like that, that ultimately I think becomes a problem for Texas.
So another thing that we've talked about a lot this season, especially when it comes to breaking down Georgia games, is the Boogeyman mentality. And I'm wondering, going into this one, does Georgia have that effect or that impact on Texas? As I mentioned, Texas 11-3 in SEC play since the start of last season when they joined. 2 of those losses are to Georgia. Yes, Sark's had 2 weeks to prepare here. They're coming off the bye. But I don't know, does seeing Kirby Smart on the other sideline, does that make things a little more tense? And does that ultimately prove to be the reason here where if this is a close game, how Georgia's going to be able to pull away because, well, maybe Texas just screws something up here?
Texas does seem to get in its own head against Georgia. I think that you could tell from both of those games last year. I think, it's a little
Beck
different.
threw what, 4 picks in Austin?
Yeah. Oh,
and they won. Georgia still won?
It was abysmal from him. But I'm trying to think, like, there was a point in the game in Austin last year where Georgia's pass rush was just destroying Quinn Ewers. Like that kind of thing isn't going to happen again. So that like forced like a slight change where they went to Arch just to kind of like take some of the pressure off of Ewers, this and that. I don't see it happening the exact same way, but there were instances in the SEC championship game, for instance, where Sark he outthinks himself too much sometimes, and I think like the extra week to prepare could make him like even more neurotic. So I'm expecting some like really ballsy 4th down go for it decisions from this Texas team. Like if their drive stalls out around the midfield on the first drive, like I bet they're just going to go for it. Like they're going to be really aggressive, I think, with their play calling and just trying to get this offense on track. So keep an eye because that cuts both ways. If it works, all of a sudden the Texas is dictating the tempo on offense. But if it doesn't, you're setting up Georgia in short fields. You get in trouble really quickly that way.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out. I'm not betting this game, so I guess I'll ride the fence here. I'm going to take Georgia to win, but I guess I'll go Texas to cover somehow. I think this game's really close, comes down to a last possession type thing. I'm going to go Georgia 28-24, and so that would give us the over here. I've just been looking at different angles here. I mean, I guess the over would be my favorite play. Also because, too, what if these two teams just completely abandon the run and just try to throw like 40 times each? That could slow down this clock and give us many more opportunities here for points, too, as the game extends that way. Another interesting one, Texas plus 3.5 first half.
Oh, well, given Georgia's first half proclivities, that
right, but that went right out the window last week. I was talking about Mississippi State plus 5.5, I think, in the first half, and Georgia was up by 3 touchdowns or something like that.
Yeah, so if you bet that, you got to be worried that last week they figured something out with how to handle the first half. And Georgia, I mean, Kirby Smart talked about it this week, but like the middle 8, he specifically cited the Notre Dame game last year and how things got away from them at the tail end of the second quarter and the beginning of the third quarter, and that's how they swung the game against Miss State last week. So maybe they figured some things out. I don't know if they need to do the fire drill thing again with the punt, but regardless, I think that maybe Georgia has figured a way to circumvent some of those slow starts that were plaguing them early on.
So speaking of figuring things out, something that another team in the SEC is trying to figure out is how to run the ball. And I'm talking about Alabama here, something we talked a lot about on Monday's show. You can go back and watch that during our Week 11 recap if you want to. But Alabama takes on Oklahoma this week. The Tide favored by 5.5, 6 points here. I don't think this is going to be the week, John, that Alabama all of a sudden has this great rushing attack because, well, Oklahoma has an elite run defense here, one of the best in the country. Although I will say, though, I think this game sets up nicely for Alabama. And a lot of people are talking about going into this game that Oklahoma has this great defense and that they're going to be able to limit Ty Simpson. Oklahoma has been thrown on a ton the past 2 games here. They're 1-1 in those 2 games. Impressive win a couple of weeks ago up in Knoxville. But between Trinidad Chambliss and Joey Aguilar, they've allowed over 700 yards through the air the past 2 games. I think that sets up nicely for what Ryan Grubb's going to want his offense to do and for Ty Simpson to have a big game here. And also, I just don't trust John Mateer to be able to keep this one close. Yes, he can run, but he has not thrown for over 225 yards since coming back from that hand injury. He might be able to make some plays with his legs here in this one, but I do think he's going to have to throw at some point. And this Alabama defense has been very opportunistic. I've talked myself more and more into really liking Alabama this week, especially with this game being in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I mean, just straight up. Yeah, I know the records and the resumes and so on are going to afford Oklahoma the ranking that it has. I don't think Oklahoma's a top 12 team in the country. I really don't.
I agree with you.
I think their offense is really one note. If you get Satania, if you get him kind of blanketed, where do they throw? They can't. And like you were saying, Mateer just since the hand surgery just hasn't been able to put the ball in the air with that much effectiveness. So really, OU's only path forward in this one is kind of playing keep away on offense, shortening the game. So that means a ton of Mateer running because, again, we don't really trust this running back group for Oklahoma either. So he's going to need to kind of just man up, and maybe the trainers will hook him up with something to make it not feel so bad out there because he's going to have to run a lot to keep this Alabama offense on the sidelines. But I think Alabama, the strength of this Oklahoma defense being against the run and being leaky against the pass, that's the worst type of setup you could have going into Tuscaloosa. So I think this could be a bloodbath, really, more than anything. So I'd frankly be interested in an alternate spread on Alabama. I just don't think that there's any way that OU hangs with them for 60 minutes. You're just asking too much based on what we've seen, I think. It's not really. I mean, I'm just trying to be objective about this Oklahoma team. Basically, since September, I've seen a lot of flaws with this team.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the other thing, too, that I keep reading and hearing is that, well, Oklahoma is going to be able to make Alabama one-dimensional. Alabama is one-dimensional.
Yeah.
That's what they do. And the one dimension in this game is their strength. I think Ty Simpson has a very good game Saturday afternoon. And, yeah, I like Alabama a lot in this one. I'm not seeing the path for Oklahoma here. I just don't think it's going to come to fruition. Oklahoma's not great in red zone defense either. They rank 66th in the country, allowing opponents to score on 84% of their trips. Alabama's red zone offense ranks 16th, scoring on over 92% of their red zone opportunities. You look at the turnover margins and differential here, which can be fluky, but Alabama is plus 10 in the turnover margin. They have been great in the red zone as well. Oklahoma, it seems they can't force takeaways, and they give the ball away a couple times a game, it feels like.
Yeah, for the defense to have the rep that it does Oklahoma-wise, yeah, it's weird to be easy to throw on and also not really take the ball away ever. And also just kind of doing research for this, I saw that Alabama just has 6 turnovers on the year. You got to be kidding me. How does it keep happening?
It's of course they do. And also one other thing, I kind of hinted at, this is a tough schedule spot. Yes, Oklahoma's coming off the bye. Thank you for shouting that out, by the way. I've just erased a week of vacation.
You had it on Monday too, so it's all good.
And just erased a week being on vacation and all that kind of stuff. But back-to-back road games in the SEC, whether you have a bye in there or not, is still tough. And yes, they went up to Knoxville and got the win. I don't think they're going to be able to do that again in Tuscaloosa. So give me the Tide.
Give me the Tide. Give me the Tide big here. I think we're going to see Simpson's Heisman odds be a decent bit shorter than they are right now after this one, because I think that, again, it's a bit of a narrative-based award, and people will give him credit for shredding an Oklahoma defense. So I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yep, I agree with you. So let's hit on a couple of these other games around the country here that interest us this weekend. Let's start off with this one in the Big Ten, which is this game's actually on Big Ten Network. It is a ranked matchup between Iowa and USC in Southern California. Now, maybe they're burying it on Big Ten Network because it's actually going to be raining in Southern California for a change, and they just don't want the country to see that easily. So maybe that's why. But anyways, John, USC favored by 6.5 or 7 here at home. USC is 7-1 this season straight up as a favorite. Iowa 0-3 straight up as an underdog. Little interesting stat there for us. Like, this is the start of a big 2-game stretch here for the Trojans. Iowa this week, at Oregon next week. We're going to find out what they're made of. Can they control their own destiny to maybe be able to get to that Big Ten championship game if Ohio State or Indiana was to slip up? I know Iowa's got this good defense, but they still do give up the occasional chunk play, and there's like no one better than Lincoln Riley in this offense, especially at home, at picking up chunk plays here. I think USC is going to be able to get just enough, and they're going to be able to score in the 20s, where I don't think Iowa's getting to 20 in this game, so give me the Trojans.
It's fair. It's a little bit of blind faith on Iowa and a little bit of blind doubt on USC, even though they have been great at home and great as favorites. I think that's a great stat about how Iowa's performed as underdogs this year. But in 6.5 is like a tantalizing number if you want to back USC. They have the offense to do it. Mekhi Lemon is outstanding. Maeva is still really, really good as well. I was just going to need to do its Iowa magic, and I'm not sure if it travels outside of Kinnick to the vaunted Coliseum, like Cowherd likes to say, but I'm going to just kind of hold my nose and take the points here with Iowa, but I'm not feeling so great about it.
Moving on, Florida at Ole Miss. Ole Miss favored by 14.5 here. I mean, possibly the on-field audition for Lane Kiffin. There we go. Taking on Florida. Like, I don't know. I'm looking at this one. Is Florida just completely checked out here? Like, does Oklahoma just jump up big and then run away with this thing? Like, this spread not that big compared to some of the numbers that we've seen Ole Miss lay at home. Like, the Washington State game was in the 30s. Obviously, the Citadel and like 54 last week. Just 14.5 here for this Ole Miss offense. I mean, kind of feels like a name your number spot, and we know how Lane just loves to troll. Like, would it surprise you if Lane Kiffin like bludgeons Florida this weekend by like 30 points and then is their head coach in 4 months?
You never know with him. You simply can't predict it. Apparently, like half of Florida's committed recruiting class is going to be in Oxford this weekend. So like there's
why?
Yeah.
Why would you bring them?
Well, because
to meet Lane.
Yeah, to meet Lane and for Ole Miss to flip them, I think is probably how that sets up. I mean, the models think that Ole Miss wins this one and covers. We're looking at like 17 points, that type of thing. 14.5 is a tricky number, but Florida lost by how much to Kentucky?
Oh, it was like 30-3 or something like that.
Yeah, no, Ole Miss by a lot.
Yeah, a couple other notes on this game here when it comes to betting. Florida is 0-4 against the spread on the road this season. Ole Miss 5-2 at home. Surprisingly, those two losses against the spread for Ole Miss were those games where they were heavy favorites. This one much more manageable, where like I could see Ole Miss being up by 3 touchdowns at halftime in this game easily. Just because I'm not sure how much of a punch Florida's going to be able to pack. But there's also like this weird scenario too where like Florida might have to win this game to secure Lane Kiffin if they want him to be their next coach as well. So it's fascinating game and a lot of odd standpoints here going on down there in Oxford this weekend.
I'm sure Billy Gonzalez wants to win this game so that someone else can be the coach. That's a tricky dynamic,
right? God. All right. How about let's head to the Big 12. We haven't done much talk about the Big 12 here on this show. Utah at Baylor. This could be a really fun one, John. This line's moved a decent amount. Utah favored by 7.5 here. This game was at 9.5 on Sunday night. I grabbed Baylor plus the points. Sunday night at 9.5. Obviously don't like it as much at 7.5 here, but we got strength versus strength. We got Baylor, the number 5 passing offense, led by Sawyer Robinson, against Utah, the number 6 ranked pass defense. Going into this one, does Utah need style points, right? They're sitting at 13 to try to get into the playoff here. They just blew out Cincinnati, which was very impressive. That followed a drubbing of Colorado. Utah has an average margin of victory here. The last 4 games of over 35 points, 35.8 to be exact. But then on the other side, you got Baylor at home in spoiler mode here where they can pretty much end Utah's postseason hopes and playoff hopes. Baylor's just been terrible against the number, though. They're 2-7 against the spread this season.
Yeah, I think I still like Utah here, for the reasons you said. Like they dropped their 2 kind of big games for the committee by losing to BYU and to Texas Tech. So they need to just beat up on everybody else. And I think that this is a team that's well suited to do just that. So I'm expecting Utah to win this one by 2 touchdowns and just kind of like keep the pressure on like BYU, something like that, and the rest of the teams that are like on the fringe periphery of the top 12 rankings.
So another big one in the Big 12, Saturday night. This is your nightcap, a 10:15 Eastern kick. TCU at BYU. BYU licking their wounds after that loss and that butt kicking from Texas Tech a week ago. They're laying 4.5 at home. This TCU team can be pretty frisky here. How are you looking at this matchup? Because another interesting sandwich spot here for BYU. You come off that big loss against Texas Tech a week ago. You return home for a week against TCU. And then you got to go at Cincinnati next week, which could be a play-in game for the Big 12 championship game. How do you view this one?
I kind of like TCU. I think that's a good number to get them at 4.5. I think that they laid an egg last week against Iowa State, one of the more confusing offensive results in particular of the season with the way that the TCU's offense had been rolling going into that game, and it was at home. I mean, it just the whole thing was very bizarre. I saw that got there were 2.4 million people watched that game. It's like, oh man, apologies for that, but I think the 4.5 is important. I think we're going to be sweating it out if we're on the Frog side of that one, but I do think that ultimately, this is a BYU team that even before they took their first loss, I still expected them to take on at least 2 to 3 losses as the season finished up. I think this could be one of those spots. I think TCU's offense is gonna pose some problems for this BYU defense.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, if you look at how BYU was last year, right? They started off in that great 7-0, 8-0 run, and then the wheels kind of came off, and they came off bad. Is that going to happen again? Can they right the ship here for a week and go into that game next week at 9-1? I think where this game's going to be decided is probably in the red zone here, where TCU has not been great at finishing drives. They rank 94th in the country in red zone offense, scoring on just 81% of their trips, where BYU, as we did see last week, has been a phenomenal red zone defense where they were limiting Texas Tech to field goals a lot in that game. They rank 11th in the country, allowing opponents to score just 72% of the time when they head to the red zone. I don't know. This game's going to be close. I guess I would take the points here, but I do think BYU is going to find a way to win just because it seems like it's been their year.
Fair. I mean, that's definitely fair. And TCU is given reason to doubt that they can actually win this game, but making it close is what we need if we're on the Frogs side of the ledger. And they kind of don't want to be in the red zone. They have the type of guys.
I was going to say, if there is a team that's built to score big plays, like TCU, that does fit TCU. They might actually be better off trying to score from 35, 40 yards.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with Eric McAllister, if you're up late Saturday night, I think you will be.
All right, very good. So we're going to get to our betting card in a minute here, John. Any other games you want to quickly hit on before we get to the cards?
I think we've covered some good ground here, so I'd say let's press on and get our bets.
Actually,
out
let me throw one more interesting one.
Yes,
South Carolina at Texas A&M. Lines up to 19.5 here. South Carolina has a new play caller off the bye. They've actually hung around in most of these SEC games. I don't think they've lost a game by 20 points yet or recently. Like maybe Texas A&M a little sleepy here.
Yeah, I mean, they have such
Could you talk yourself into that?
I can't because I've just been so disappointed by South Carolina this year, but
it's Cockvember.
Even that's like losing. It's we're so
yeah.
I think if South Carolina covers, it's not because they played so well so much as like Texas A&M for whatever reason just kind of like didn't come into this game at full bore, coming off the big win at Mizzou last week. But that's something I would see happen under Jimbo Fisher, not Mike Elko. So I think that A&M takes care of business. And, yeah, I think by that token, though, like probably a little bit scared off by A&M covering such a big number. But, I don't think that A&M is necessarily like in upset trouble this week. And then I think you had a little something here about what's going on with this Clemson-Louisville.
Yeah, that line was interesting. That is an interesting line here. So Clemson's at Louisville. Last I checked, and let me just pull it up here again. Louisville favored by just 2.5 at home against Clemson. Too much respect for the Tigers coming off that win against Florida State? Are people just down on Louisville now after they lost to Cal? I mean, looking back on it, that was a great look-ahead spot for Louisville. I mean, even with Clemson being down, they still are a team that you do get up for in the ACC.
Sure.
I don't know, 2.5. Something's off with that number.
I think Isaac Brown is going to be out for Louisville, so that is that takes something out of the run game, and he was obviously such a huge reason why they beat Miami earlier this year. So like that is something that could explain it, but I think I officially like hate betting with either of these teams at this point. I don't think I've gotten a Clemson bet right this entire season, so F them.
Yeah, fair enough. You're looking at a guy who had a Clemson national championship ticket.
Makes two of us.
Well, there we go. All right. Anyways, moving on. Let's go to Week 12. We are off to a good start this week. We are 2-0 on our Maction bets. We're coming off a 9-5 week in Week 11. Week 12, best bets, John. Let's keep the momentum going. What do you got for us?
All righty. Give me Arizona State minus 10.5 against West Virginia. No Jordan Tyson, but I think Malik McClain has shown that he can kind of play that Jordan Tyson role and play it pretty well. And West Virginia, I was not impressed by them last week. They barely covered against Colorado at home. Give me the forks up. And then, let's see, give me Bama minus 5.5 against Oklahoma. Digging into the trash in the Big Ten a little bit here. Give me Penn State minus 7 in East Lansing against Sparty. Give me the Georgia-Texas over 48.5. Here's one to keep an eye on. This one's already been moving around a decent bit, but I think Chandler Morris is going to be able to play, so this line could be different by like Friday, so keep an eye here. But I like UVA plus 4.5. That's what they're listed at as of this recording. Kind of holding my nose here and taking Miami. I think that they do understand the moment here. They need to kind of crack back into where they were back in September. So give me Miami minus 15.5 against NC State. NC State's defense is just horrendous. And then I'll dabble one little Mountain West game out there for you. San Jose State minus 9.5 at Nevada.
Yeah, Nevada's terrible. They are just atrocious. They get blown out on a weekly basis. Hopefully that continues for me. I'll start off in the Big Ten. Let's go Northwestern plus 11.5 taking on Michigan at Wrigley Field on Saturday. That'll be a fun one. This Northwestern team, they're a little frisky. Michigan, not the same when they leave the big house here. I think Northwestern can keep this game within 11 points. Notre Dame, minus 12. Like I was saying, I think this is just a gigantic step up for Pitt here. I think the Irish want that final nice little, whatever you want to call it, resume builder here to show the committee that they are one of the top 12 teams in the country. Let's go Arizona plus 6.5 at Cincinnati. Cincinnati could be a look-ahead spot with BYU coming in next week. Arizona has been playing really well as of late. They very rarely get blown out here, so I like Arizona. Georgia Tech minus 16.5. Boston College, you are just not serious people, to quote Logan Roy there. Like, they should not even be a Power 4 school at this point with how this football team has been playing. I'm going to go Alabama and USC parlayed on the money line. Plus 114, nice little payout there. I think both these teams get the job done there. Virginia Tech plus 14 at Florida State. FSU just doesn't win ACC games. So now I'm asking them to win by 2 touchdowns. Let's go Virginia Tech.
Love that.
Plus 14 points. And then finally, late ad, UNC plus 6.5 at Wake Forest. John, I went back and looked. Did you know Wake Forest has won one ACC game by 7 points or more in the last 3 calendar years?
So that, I mean, does that even
2022.
Was Hartman there yet, or still, or was he
Maybe
at Notre Dame?
It could have been. Yeah, so that was Hartman's last year. Hartman was at Notre Dame in 2023. So yeah, Hartman's final year at Wake Forest there, and UNC's playing a lot better. Good run defense. Could be a letdown spot for Wake Forest too after beating UVA a week ago.
I like that call.
All right, very good. I think that's going to do it for us. Look at us. Nice, tidy 55 minutes. That's great. All right, guys, enjoy the weekend. Enjoy Week 12. We got great games to talk about on Monday when we come back. We will do that. This is College Football Tailgate. Please hit that subscribe button if you have watched this far. Tell a friend, tell your mom, tell your grandma, tell your favorite uncle to check out College Football Tailgate. We will be back on Monday with a full Week 12 recap show.